This my destiny, this my birthright, patience. It take patience. You can't turn time, bless me. All the blessing me, front of your eye, testing me. God that testing me, we gon' make it our destiny. This my destiny, this my birthright, patience. It take patience, can't turn time, bless me. All the blessing me, front of your eye, testing me. God that testing me, we gon' make it our. I'm winning the race. That's probably why it feel like I'm running away. You gotta right those wrongs. I'm stuck in the game. One foot on their neck, one foot in the grave. And still life goes on. I'm traveling Bay, I'm fit for a tour. I'll be back in May. You gotta play your part. Grateful of this day, blessed to be in this game. Plus the money is great. So I write these songs.
So if your leg is shorter, that means the seat can be lower, which means you're less of a windsock. So the lower, the primary determinant of forward resistance at the speeds that we're doing is wind resistance, right?
Yeah.
So if we can lower your frontal area on the bike, you might gain 1 kilometre an hour by riding with the seat 25 mil lower, and that's free, right? So generally speaking, yes. All right, let's have a look at you, mate. So what we'll do first, come and stand in front of me here. We'll face you down towards the desk there.
Yeah.
Spin you around. Let's have a bit of a look at you.
I'm gonna try and not change myself.
Yeah, no, it's alright. Everyone does. Oh shit. Are you a right-hander? Do you used to play a lot of racket sports when you were?
I'm right-handed, yeah.
Like, did you have a job that required a lot of manual labour with your right hand?
Yeah, it's weird. Like I write with my right hand,
Yeah.
but if you ask me to arm wrestle, I use my left hand.
Okay. So you're slightly kind of ambidextrous in some ways. Are you sure that the only thing you broke back then was the socket of the hip? Or was it possibly a pelvis fracture in there as well?
It was traumatic activity.
Yeah, you're complicated. I can already tell. I mean, just looking at you from the front, your left shoulder
I feel like this.
is way down. Yeah, your pelvis is all twisted. This is going to be fun. You stand. You give a very good impression of a guy who stands with his pelvis square, but when we actually put our hands on top of the halves of your pelvis, there's a ridiculous pelvic tilt. I got my hands sitting on top of the halves of his pelvis. Let's take a photo of that. Oh, hold on. Where are we? There. Yeah. So this is complicated. It may mean that his left leg is significantly longer than his right, or it could mean that the arches of his pelvis are just different heights because of a genetic asymmetry in the shape of the pelvis. Yeah, this is going to get interesting. His left side of his iliac crest is torsioned backwards as well, so his left side of his pelvis is turned back just by feeling it. His left glute is twice the size of his right glute. His right hamstring is visibly larger than his left, but his left quad is visibly larger than his right. It's complicated. Stand on your left leg for me, Abdullah. Lift your right knee up and down towards your chest a few times. Awesome. Show me the other side, mate. Alright, thankfully it's still moving. Alright, so the two sides of your pelvis, there's these joints in there called sacroiliac joints. And I was worried that your left one was turned backwards and stuck. They can get like jammed from prolonged asymmetry. Yours is turned, but it's not stuck, which is good. When they're stuck, you're in big trouble. Like it's an orthopedic problem that needs to be mechanically manipulated and fixed. Yours is turned because your left glute is so much bigger than your right.
Wow.
The reason your left glute, so it holds it back, right? The reason it's so much bigger is because of your asymmetry on the bike, obviously. You've been overusing your left glute for a long time, which is where all the one of the places where all the sensations of asymmetry come from when you ride. So, yeah, this has gone a long way. You've diverged from reasonable symmetry a long time ago.
Yeah.
And just looking at you from the front, like if you face that, your shoulder sits way down. There's much less trap. There's much less bulk on this side. So it's kind of all through your body.
I'd always find this hand sitting further forward.
Yeah. It's
Almost like, and then it was like almost like I was trying to pull this hip forward like that.
Yeah. It's
How do you
complicated.
keep riding?
Well, eventually you reach your limit, which is what's happened to you. Your body has reached a degree of asymmetry now, which is huge. You're in the top 5%, but you reached your limit a year or whatever ago, and everyone reaches their limit at a different point. I've got riders who've got a 2 mil leg length discrepancy and nothing else greatly wrong, and they reach their limit. You know, so it all depends on the distance you're doing, the intensity you're doing, how much your body can put up with before the pain, you know, becomes a big problem.
You know what? It's gotten better.
Yeah.
If I told you that, that's fucking crazy, eh?
Well, you've either been working on it, or
I've been stretching.
Someone's solved aspects of your position already. Like they've got your crease back, you've got a shim on your right
Stretch a little bit more.
Yeah. So you've gotten closer to ideal. You and I are probably going to see each other a bit more in the coming years if you keep riding a bike, because we're going to try and adapt you out of this over time. Your quads will be roughly the same size, your glutes will have ended up, and the stuff that we do to resolve the asymmetry will need to then be reduced. Like if it takes a big shim under your right foot, the shim height might creep down over time. Stretch up towards the ceiling as high as you can, like this, keeping your heels on the ground. Okay, 3, 2, 1, just nice and easy. Okay, relax back down here. That's pretty good, man. That's going to go a long way to helping our cause. Think about it. Don't go slow.
I feel like I'm on the catwalk, man, with the music. Not really. I walk slower, man. Try not to change my walk, though.
The orientation of your hip socket has now turned into external rotation. So your leg is starting to turn that way very slightly. You can only see it a little bit when you walk. And have you noticed that at all?
Well, actually, we're putting Michael Milton on the ladder now. See, I was still thinking you guys on
Bend your legs up towards you, mate.
so nice. Hammering, clubbing.
Okay, good. Lift your bum high up off the ground. Nice. Yes. That's it. And then ease it back down. And then relax. Good. Let your legs go nice and floppy and relaxed.
Keep up this performance, you could get member of the month in September.
The mystery continues. You have no appearance at all of leg length discrepancy. So you're complicated. I think we better have a closer look at those images again in the context of seeing you now, because I would have sworn looking at you standing that you do have a significant discrepancy, but there are other possibilities as well. And owing to your history of fracture somewhere around there, there's almost a 0% chance that that fracture and this oddity are unconnected. Like these are going to be connected, yeah. When you have a fracture around your pelvis during your formative years, it can do some wacky things to your symmetry of your pelvis, you know.
See, I feel like my glute. Pretty bad.
Tell me when your hamstring starts to get nice and stretchy here. Up around 80 degrees, that's fine. And then, yeah, just like that.
And then clip it.
Yeah. I'm just going to record all of this while you warm your legs up a little bit. Leg, you got small calves, you got a big thigh, right? People like that.
I love that, that's so true.
it's just how you feel it, right?
It's facts, eh?
People like that almost always drop their heels when they ride because their calves aren't big, so they don't utilise them much on a bike. And that's a function of not utilising them much when they walk. So when you learn to walk, you learn to walk without using your calves much, for whatever reason, right?
Yeah.
And so those people tend to be by nature heel droppers on a bike.
Yeah.
And you know, you're looking at the biggest heel dropper in the world, which is me. I'm still the biggest heel dropper I've ever seen. And I've got tiny calves. And
You can't change it, man.
No, you can't make it
genetics,
big. No, you can only go around it. You can only alter the position to deal with it, but you can't make them bigger. If you look at like a classic case in point is Peter Sagan, the pro rider. Big chunky dude with big chunky calves, right? Big solid calves. And the dude rides like with a massive toe down attitude because he just uses his, he rides like that. He uses his calves a lot because that's how he walks. And the nervous system tends to conflate walking and cycling and running. They all kind of, they're, reciprocal motions of the legs. What you see when the person walks is very often similar to what you see when they ride.
Okay.
Yeah. So off the bike, you're one of the most complex people physiologically that I've ever seen.
Wow.
You'd be in the top 10.
Wow.
And it's not because of multiple injuries or anything like that. It's all of your adaptations around what I think is a single large injury in your younger years, which is a pelvic fracture.
Okay.
So an unknown. We don't even know exactly what you did to your pelvis, but it appears to have really messed up the symmetry of your pelvis. It's also possible that you just rode with a shit position for ages, and all of this asymmetry is because of your adaptations to that crap position. That's possible as well.
Yeah.
It may have nothing to do with the fracture. Yeah, someone hasn't tried real hard here. But they never do. This is good for the video, actually. Are you making a video out of this, or just like stilling? Have a look at his ass. So I'm gonna put my thumb in the center of your butt. Sorry, mate. Is that on the center of the seat? No, it's shifted off to the right laterally by a substantial margin, right? So not only that, on the downstroke, he drops that hip down and forward, which is, we knew that he was going to do that because all of his symptoms are left-sided, right? So immediately, a bigger left glute from dropping the right hip, a bigger left quad, all of these are adaptations to his hip drop and his asymmetry sitting off to one side. So his nervous system is protecting his dominant right leg. And the cost of that is unusual amounts of left-sided load in places where it shouldn't be. So yeah, you sit off to the right. That's why you always flog the front of the right side of the seat.
Yeah.
But it's also why that you get left-sided saddle sores, because you're laterally shifted off to the right-hand side.
Yeah.
Right? You hold, if that's the center line of the seat, your whole pelvis is over that way by like 20 mil, and so that loads the inner left side of your sit bone.
Yeah.
So you get payment. Why you do it is a complicated combination of all of the weird things about you. We know that you've got a small leg length discrepancy with the right leg being shorter, probably. There's a pretty good chance. But there's other issues with the general position as well, because you've got to shim under that right foot now, right? I look at you from the right-hand side and I say, the seat height is roughly correct. It might be slightly too low, if anything. But it's pretty close. We look at you from the left and it's definitely too high. So you're underextending the right leg, even though it's got a shim, and you're overextending the left. And that's because you're dropping the right hip, right? So because your right hip is sitting down and forward, it's closer to the crank. So it's got less far to extend to reach the crank center line, or the bottom of the pedal, right? So that leg looks short. The other one looks like it's having a struggle to reach the bottom of the stroke. The biggest, that's all the symmetry stuff. If we look at you from the front, if you kept riding like this long enough, your left knee would start hurting one day.
It's hurt me before,
Oh, has it? Yeah, there you go. So one day, if it got worse, that'd be the next thing. You can sort of see that the right knee sits closer to the top tube of the left, by a reasonable margin. And you'll also notice your left heel drifts in. I want you to, that's a screwdriver, that's not my finger. I want you to put that in the center of your ass crack, okay? And it will feel as if you're sitting off to the left of the seat.
Is that center?
You do it by feel. I want it in your butt. Can you, or do you need it to be more prominent? Hit it. Oh, okay. Lift up. There, try now. Better?
Yeah, is that better?
That's much better. So go in the skis and ride. And try and keep it in the center of your butt crack.
Oh, whoa.
Let's just see how much better his symmetry is when he's sitting square. Oh, it's hugely better. So the left leg extension suddenly looks like from the left side that you see is too low. And it looks exactly the same from the right, which is a critical thing. So the main problem is that over your years of riding with compensatory effects is that your brain has lost sight of where the centerline is of the whole bike, right? So our first primary thing to do is to retrain that so that you can sit square. And I've got a way. If you said, what's the biggest gross problem with the position apart from the symmetry issues? The reach to the pads is too long. You've got to bring the pads back closer to you. You're still having to extend your elbows, your sort of torso to humerus angle, whatever. You're still having to extend it out a good 30 degrees, and over time that's going to kill your neck and shoulder.
Yeah, well, you know what? I used to be like this.
Yeah, right.
But then now, like, you see that?
Yeah, more upright.
You see that? No, do you see this reach there?
Yeah. You had it further away, did you?
No, this is with my grip.
Yeah, right.
But now, I've been finding that if I pull my grip back there, it's more comfortable.
It should be even further back than that.
Oh, like that?
Yes. How much adjustability is left in these?
Fuck all.
Yeah.
Virtually none.
The second problem is the bar, the pad width. If we could get them wider.
Do you know what? I thought you were going to say that because you know what? When I drop my elbows out here, because my elbows back here, I start to feel like what it's like to have my elbows slightly out. Yeah. And I go, oh fuck, this is actually, I feel more powerful.
Yeah. So if you...
I feel like I'm doing a plank. I feel like I'm doing a plank like this.
Yeah, this scrunching, this kind of like, I'm forced to hold my shoulders in, it's not good. You'll end up with trap pain.
But do you know what? Like when my elbows sit, when I put my arms back because my elbows sit further out,
yeah, it feels better.
I feel like, it feels more powerful.
It's a no-brainer. Oh, it'll be heaps better, yeah. So I think, unless we want to go and buy a whole new front end, because these things are not super adjustable, we can't go any wider, we can't go any further back. Our best bet is to modify the pad position with some extender plates. So what you do is you basically get some 5 or 6 millimeter plate steel, and you make a plate that screws on there and then comes back and has other bolt hole locations. Okay. So not in your case, we want to be able to move the pads out about 20-25 millimeters laterally on each side.
Yeah.
You know, that far. And we also want to be able to have some ability to move it back. Yeah, so
that's exciting.
So we want to stagger it back. It's a relatively easy thing to make, but it has to be made.
Yeah.
Which is, look, I'll do it for you. It won't take me long. We may not need to do much, or we may need to do a lot. Just lean back so I can stick my head on you.
I really just thought my one hip was longer than the other. Like I just thought it was just that. Little to no fucking got a genetic deformity.
Yeah, you're a genetic freak.
Yeah. You know what? I'm humbled by the fact that I can keep riding.
I'm impressed.
Like I literally thought I was going to come here, and I was telling Simone in the car, like, it's so nice to go to a bike fit and not be fucked up. That's what I was saying. Like I don't think he's going to have to do much. I thought maybe he's just going to drop the saddle height, move it back, and say do a few hip stretches.
Yeah, I wish. Where'd you get that?
Got 3D printed by a dude in fucking. I got another one, a new one.
That'll be why I haven't seen one of them before. 3D printed.
Yeah, those spaces are 3D printed too.
Yeah, right. Pretty cool.
Is this still usable?
Maybe. Because now that I've seen what I've seen, I know that the main impediment to symmetry is that you sit off to the right of the seat. And if we shim the foot and whatever, nothing's going to change that. We have to get you sitting square on the seat first, and then we can make a determination. It's quite possible that you don't need to shim at all. It's just that was one way of attempting to force you back into squareness. It just wasn't the correct way. Yeah.
It gave in a very immediate relief.
There's no.
Because you know what? I took it out one day.
Yeah.
And it was fucked.
It was much worse. Yeah.
No, I don't know if it was, but it was like just my head. I was like, I can't.
Oh,
do this.
psychological.
I was like, I can't do. And I changed the speed plate the same day.
You don't get feet based upon what you do as a kid. You primarily get them based upon your genetic history.
You know, flat feet's an Arab thing.
Yep.
I've never met an Arab with nice feet.
Depends what you define as nice.
Yeah. I mean, where they go, whoa, that knee looks like it's tracking perfectly.
So I guess the real question you should ask is, what does a normal foot look like?
Whoa.
I've only ever seen one pair.
Whoa.
I only saw one pair of normal feet. She's a Fijian girl. She was Caucasian, but grew up in Fiji, right?
Yeah.
And she came to me in my clinic in Melbourne, 12 years ago or something. And she'd never worn shoes, right? And she was a distance runner. She used to run around her island a couple of times a day after school for training, right? She came here and started running, came here for university, started running in shoes, immediately developed shin splints. So she rocks up at the clinic and, you know, and I'm going, okay, whoa, look at these feet. They were ridiculously broad. Like they were just crazy how wide they were. Incredibly flexible, but her strength, the intrinsic strength in her small muscles in her feet was off the charts. Wow. She could grip your fingers with her toes like you and I can grip, you know, with your hand. It was unbelievable. And she had this really wide, splayed forefoot with lots of separation between the toes.
Yeah, that's great.
And essentially, I couldn't solve her shin splint problem. We had to go around it. So we got her to get a pair of minimalist shoes, like a pair of socks basically, with a rubber bottom, so that it mimicked how she'd grown up. And we got her to run on grass, and she was totally fine. But if she ran on concrete or she tried to wear any shoe, she immediately got shin splints. And that was the only pair of normal feet I think I've ever seen. Because our feet are abnormal because people put us in shoes from the age of 0, right? So we grow up learning to move on perfectly hard, congruent surfaces. Especially, your nervous system will tend to seek pressure through the bottom of that foot, whether it's to tension the arch or tilt the forefoot or tilt the heel or whatever. So your nervous system will seek that proprioceptive input. And what it will do typically is most of us have got a dominant right leg. If there's no arch support, the wedging is incorrect, whatever, your brain will go, I can't feel my dominant foot properly, so I'm going to drop my hip down and forward on that side to load the foot until I have the exact right amount of proprioceptive input from my foot. So you'll shift off to the side, you'll drop your dominant hip forward and down. And that's possibly one of the possible causations of how this has come about, this major asymmetry here.
Look at that fucking...
The reason you keep shifting forward is not because the seat is too far back or forward, because the front end reach is way too long.
Okay.
We're going to have to take some really accurate guesses here until we can make you some extender plates for your pads. We're going to have to make some really accurate guesses as to where the seat setback should be.
Yeah.
So this will get a little bit tricky until we've got those.
Oh, you know what it was before? It was on that...
Oh my God. Look at that.
I did that. You know, I got a spanner if you want it.
Bigger arms than me.
I got a
Me
shifter.
too. This is actually easy to do.
So see how there's that middle one?
Yeah.
It was on the middle one and it was more forward. So I was getting a lot of quad back.
Whoa, it's more forward than this.
It was slammed forward and on the middle one.
Holy shit.
But then someone said, dude, you don't know how far over the quad back you are. And I was like, but I said, it looks like my road bike. Because on my road bike I put my 2 fingers there and I say, that looks about rough.
Yeah, wow.
But I was getting a lot of quad pain.
Oh, no doubt.
But it also felt kind of powerful too.
Yeah, it feels...
But a BMX.
It feels powerful, but it's not. Yeah. No one really, there's like a couple of people, 10, 20 in the world maybe, that deal with asymmetries like this. It's very rare. Because you're rare.
Thanks, man.
By nature, it's difficult to learn this stuff. And you've got to be a bit of a weirdo to kind of get as far in depth with it as I am with you, you know. So, luckily for you, I'm a weirdo. You probably won't love the appearance of it, but it's a training aid. It's designed to show you where the middle of the seat is. So, with no shim and a little bit of arch support, and I call this the persuader. It shows you where the middle of the seat is. Jump aboard, mate. It's not prominent enough. Are you in the middle? Yeah. If you can't feel it when you're in the skis, I just need to move forward a bit.
Yeah, see when I'm in the skis, it feels like I'm on my nuts a bit.
Yeah, cool. You want it to be far forward enough that the rider can feel it, but that it's not hurting you. Let's just do some guess and check. Try it there.
This is high tech.
That's it. Make sure you can feel it when you're in the skis, just a little bit. Better?
Weird thing, I can't really feel it.
Yeah, it might need to be larger.
Not really, your ass isn't...
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like if I was sitting bolt upright, I'd be able to feel it.
Yeah. Because your pelvis is rolled back a bit when you're upright. So we want it to be as small as it possibly can be so that it gives us the sensation that we want. Right, jump aboard. So the idea behind this is that we might use it for a few weeks, maybe months, but hopefully weeks. just to train his nervous
Body to
system
be
where
in
the
the
center of the
centre.
seat is.
Yeah.
I can feel that.
That's good. So when you just center it in your ass crack.
That feels center, but
That's fine. Just cruise along at a moderate clip there. That's something you have when you
that's where I'm getting the signal.
at the back. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
okay. As long as it gives
Not
us-
deep, like towards the front, but from the back.
Yeah, that's all right. As long as it gives us a sensation of centrality. That's all we want. Of all the things that you notice when we're done, once we're totally finished, the front end will be the biggest one because that's where most of your trouble is. The lack of pain will also be nice. In terms of those arch supports that are in your feet now, have you already forgotten about them?
Yeah.
Good. If you forget about them within 5 minutes, they're probably going to be okay on a longer ride, right? So stand up again, Abdullah. I'm just going to move the seat back a fraction more. We perhaps don't want him to. Oh, he's gone off to the side again. Shift laterally to the left. No, that's the right. There you go. A little bit more to the left. There. And pedal.
Whoa. That's even?
Yep.
That's 4 square.
That's even now.
What?
Okay, so his left leg extension is now totally controlled,
I'm so much.
and his right leg extension is in fact, I'll tell you that his right leg is actually extending less far than his left now. So, in all of the bizarreness of this, what may actually need to happen temporarily is he may need a left-sided shin for a short period. So, have a rest. I'm going to borrow your shoe, Abdul.
I want you there.
Yeah. Because it's your sensation of centrality is so skewed. Because you've been riding off to the side for how many years? 10 years.
2 years, maybe.
2 years, yeah. So it'll take a while, but it'll only take a couple of weeks usually for this to ingrain itself and give your brain that sensation of centrality. And that'll be the beginning of your body sort of hopefully gravitating slowly back towards symmetry. This leg is, the posterior chain of this is so far different to the other one that it requires a small shim under what may actually be his longer leg. But I'm starting to think he actually doesn't have a leg length discrepancy. It's just all so twisted and bent that it gives the impression of a leg length discrepancy.
Is that even?
That's pretty good, man. See, he's learning already. Gotta give him some.
Yeah, that's centre.
It's good.
I'm not used to seeing him sit on the centre of the saddle.
This is the shark. Have you seen this thing?
Wow.
See the thing at the rear?
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Terrible for time trialing because it's got no cutout and it's, you'd just be crushing your crotch at the front there all the time. But this is a saddle that's been designed to give the person a perception of centrality, like to show them where the middle of the seat is. And so I've only ever had to use this once. I had one guy who for whatever reason, his brain refused to accept the center of the seat. So after 3 months of using this, every time we'd take it off, he'd just shift over to the right again. And we tried everything to fix it, nothing worked. And in the end, we just got one of those and that was it, he was fine. It'll be a bit of what I call a work in progress, Abdullah, because this isn't going to be a magic bullet instantly. It'll be better, but there's going to be, our fitting with you will be done in a year's time, basically. Yeah. But you just get better from here. You're not going to get worse and then come back.
It's already good for me now.
Yeah, you'll just get better slowly.
So that's good.
You'll be all right. We're just going to take a bit of time for you just to even you back out. Problems with this frame. So as the cleats go further back on the shoe, the seat height can come down, but also generally speaking, the seat needs to come forward because the foot is sort of further back. Sorry, the foot is further forward over the pedal, so the pelvis can go forward as well.
Yeah.
So to keep everything the same, if you move the cleats back like 20 mil, you can generally move the seat forward roughly 20 mil and everything will remain the same. So you'd be a good candidate for that in that sense because it'll shorten up the reach to the pads. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we won't have as much of an extension problem to the frame. More likely that they didn't even spot the asymmetries.
Yeah.
Like I'm assuming that the guy whoever looked at you.
Well, I got the leg length discrepancy. That was what it was.
Okay. But the person who fitted you to the bike, did
No, I never did. I got it sent up here.
Oh no, but you said you had a bike fit elsewhere.
Oh yeah. What happened was that the seat went back as far as possible,
Okay.
and then I was instructed to get a high stack height, which made a big difference.
Did anyone talk to you about the asymmetries though?
No, just the leg length discrepancy.
Yeah, I had a feeling. So the problem with it is at a fundamental level, no one really notices this stuff, except like if there's like a few people.
You know,
who
it
do
makes it hard to trust bike fitting because you're like, like even if you trust your bike fitter, it's hard to leave and go, okay, I'm going to stick with this no matter how shit it feels. Until it.
Yeah, that should almost never happen.
Yeah, but.
Yeah, I agree entirely.
You know when you leave a bike fit, you have these instincts like that was not right.
Yeah.
It's hard to not just go, fuck it, I'm going to do what I want.
Yeah.
Why'd you just change your pedal?
I staggered your left foot
Oh, a couple
wider
spaces.
temporarily just to see what would happen. So your externally rotated left foot is with you for a little while. It's there because your glute is so much bigger on that side. So the foot just sits on a different angle.
You know, it was weird you say that. I feel like I've never used my ass cycling.
Yeah, that's because the seat is so far forward and so many other things wrong. Yeah.
But it's weird because now that you're saying, it's like the first time I'm cycling, I've never felt like it's actually been used.
Yeah.
Like now when I walk upstairs, I'm like, fuck, my ass hurts a little bit. But it's exciting because I think, fuck, I've got this whole muscle disposable to me now.
That's right. Think about it.
I don't know what the rationale for that is, but
in the most
it's some physics, eh?
Yeah, in the most simplistic kind of view here, the further back the cleat goes, the less you use your calves to stabilise your foot, right? That's basically it in one sentence. So that can be both good and bad, right? It sort of will limit your sprint ability a little bit, that kind of stuff. But for long, steady state endurance efforts, it's almost never a bad thing. So we're going to test it on you and see if you like it, because we might as well while you're here, and particularly because one of the reasons that you come here, apart from not getting pain, is to try and optimise your position for your intended event, right? And if this gives you another half a kilometre an hour,
That's huge.
why not, right?
That's huge, man.
Or if it allows you to produce the same wattage for longer. Or something of that nature, for an extra 5% or 2% gain, why not? See if it works, see if you like it. It'll feel very odd initially, as all large changes in cleat position generally do, but it is well worth trying. So this adapter set that I'm sticking on here, made by a bloke in Switzerland, I've seen lots of variations of these over the years. Yeah, link in description.
That's how we see it today.
So these are really good.
Does that give you, obviously if you've got that plate on there, it's like acts as shim anyway.
So unfortunately, the downside of using an adapter plate is that it increases the stack height of the cleat by the thickness of the plate. So if it's a 3mm, this is about 3 mils thick, it does increase the stack height by 3mm. That's the downside.
Does that mean you just have to adjust that line?
Yep. Generally speaking, the other good kind of news, I guess, is that as the cleat goes back, the stack height becomes less relevant because the foot is inherently much more stable over the pedal anyway. So if you have the cleat way forward, the stack height is quite critical because it'll make the foot even less stable. So if you imagine this is the center of the cleat and here's your foot, if you've got like a giant stack height, like let's say it's like 30 centimeters, your foot's going to be really unstable over the pedal, right? But if the cleat is a long way forward, it'll make it worse. Whereas a long way back, the foot will be inherently more stable over the pedal anyway. So the effect gets essentially magnified. So this is 24mm further back than they were, right?
That's mid-foot.
It's close. It's, there's your centre line. It's not true mid-foot, would be probably another 15mm back on your big-footed foot, your big shoed foot, but it's close. Once you get this far back, being actually mid-foot or not is a moot point, because it's so far back that your calf will just do nothing anyway.
That's like, are you telling me I'm going to get smaller calves? Fucking with this? They're already small enough.
They are pretty small. They're well shaped though.
No, I trust you.
They're sculpted. Sculpted is
I
good.
I trust your honesty.
If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But we might as well try.
Well, you know what it's taken to get that sculpting in that car?
Years and years of doing
Fucking a
nothing.
lot of work
No,
to get no gain,
no
hey?
calf raises at all.
No, I gave up calf raises like 8 years ago, man, because I realised I don't do fuck all.
They don't do anything.
They don't do anything.
It's one of the hardest.
They don't do nothing, eh?
Big ones, big ones.
Do you know what? Like my calves were tiny, and to what they've come to, is only from cycling,
Yeah, right.
and they're still fucking tiny.
Yeah.
exciting,
Complete
man.
significantly further back. The seat will probably need to come down, but if you start activating your hamstrings a lot more effectively because of the cleat position being better,
It's going to be one of those
the
ones.
seat may not need to come down.
Like, how do you clip in now?
Yeah.
You know, like, it's funny how you move it 2 mil and your feet are like, what are we doing?
You'll have to relearn the clipping in process. Yeah. Do it 30 times and it'll be normal again.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's a very bizarre sensation.
That's weird. Oh, that's so weird.
Yeah, everything is different is weird and it's backside.
Nice.
Yeah, so the seat definitely needs to come down. Yeah, only about 10, maybe 15 mil. You've had 5 minutes to adapt to the cleats being a long way further back. How weird does it feel? Does it not feel terribly odd now?
It was less on.
It was less odd. Yeah.
But because they went back before anyway, it's...
This is what you enjoy.
I don't know about this indoor
Not on
training.
the
Hey.
train. So your thing there is bigger than it was. You should be able to feel it hopefully a little more clear. Don't really want it any bigger than this. It's pretty good. It's not perfect. Oh no, it's pretty good. We really don't have to do anything else at this stage. I don't want to shim you. I think we'll just let you ride square. We'll bulk up your right glute, and then we'll see you here again in like 6 or 8 weeks and see how much better you are. And hopefully then by that time I'll have had this thing made and like I can post it to you and stuff and you can fit it up. Are you fairly handy? It's massively too narrow. It's like 40 or 50 millimeters too narrow. Like it's not slightly off. It's
Do you know what? I'm so happy I stuck with this for so long. Because now I feel like I'm about to go out and it's going to be the final, it's going to be like, I can do this now.
Well, I'll tell you
Because I believe I can I'm capable on this.
Oh, you'll be
like this.
by the time we're going.
Do you know what I mean? Like this.
Yeah.
So it's exciting to think, fuck, like what's that going to feel
The
like?
front end would be a lot nicer. A lot
Imagine if I got a large.
Yeah.
I'd be fucked.
Yeah, big, big trouble. Yep. Which is funny because you're such a big, solidly built dude. If you just walked into a bike shop, they'd be like, you're a large.
I was my mate was like telling me,
Yeah.
he's like, get a medium.
The biggest single issue I find with time trial bikes is that the top tubes are too long for the average punter. So basically they're too long and too low for most, I won't say everyone, but for most people.
Yeah.
So one way of getting around that is to buy one frame size down
And come up.
and stack it up at the front.
Yeah.
Assuming you can use things like this. These are a 3D printed item
Yeah.
that you have made, but the giant ones only go up like 50 mil.
Yeah, I think I got other titanium ones. And
Yeah. So
well, they were, the ones that came with were about 50 mil, so this has come up another 50.
Yeah.
I died, yeah.
This is twice the height of what you can get from the factory, and this is roughly right for you.
And that would be like riding like this.
It's a rare person who can do that.
Yeah.